So calf training is one of the most senselessly overcomplicated things in fitness. I don't exactly know why. People love with calves to do pretty much the wrong thing, which is focus on the squeeze as opposed to the stretch. This is where people make the mistake of focusing on sensation as opposed to actual efficacy. So if we're training calves, what we're going to look for here is the fact that the calves benefit from something called stretch-mediated hypertrophy, which so many people know about, but they also have really good leverage at the bottom, or are able to produce force very well. They're responsible for completing the movement near the bottom or the stretch position. So you'll notice that as I set myself up here on what is a hack squat or leg press type of deal here, this is actually a fantastic option for the calves because I'm able to keep my knees straight and I'm able to fully extend at the bottom. So this is a great way to hit your calves, effectively keeping your knees straight so that you're able to work the gastrocnemius and the soleus, which are the two muscles of the calf. And what a lot of people do is they'll do a bunch of like jumping kind of motions where they're not controlling it at the bottom, and that's kind of a crime because the bottom is so important for the reasons I mentioned. You get those benefits of stretch-mediated hypertrophy at the bottom, but then you also have the fact that the gastrocnemius and soleus are very active near the bottom of the movement. So that's where they're stronger, that's where they're capable of producing more force, that's where they're responsible for actually completing the movement as opposed to other acting tissue. So just such a valuable thing to do when training your calves is to focus on keeping a relatively straight leg. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight, but a pretty straight leg is going to be a good idea. Doing seated calf raises is pretty much a waste of time because it has been shown in studies that when you train calves with the bent knee, you are getting a little bit more soleus activation, but the soleus is just so much smaller and just not as important of a muscle to train. It grows just as well when you have straight legs. So there's no reason to do, really for any reason, a bent knee seated calf raise. Doing any kind of standing calf raise is a better option. But what I think is the gold tier is a machine like this, which is not particularly axially loaded. So I'm not particularly loading my spine or my back all that much, and I'm able to still take the calves and push them pretty close to failure. Because to me at least, I feel like training the calves and getting axial loading on your back to where your back is actually being loaded is just kind of a waste. It's a waste of fatigue. A lot of people debate whether or not axial loading or loading the spine is that big of a deal. And I don't think it's a huge deal. I don't think it makes that much of a difference when your spine's being loaded, but I certainly believe that it's not necessary, and when it's not necessary, you can just avoid it. If you're doing a stiff leg deadlift, it's kind of obvious that you have to load your spine, or a hack squat, kind of an obvious thing that you have to load your spine. But doing something like this where it takes just a little bit of that load off is just so much nicer. Like, why do you want to gas your lower back, your lumbar, to where you're feeling it the next day like, oh damn man, those calves I hit are really wiping me out there? Like, just a senseless way to fatigue much of your lower back. So we're gonna do a working set here. We're feeling very close. 1, 2, 3, up. And you can watch my pacing. I might have undershot the weight just a little bit, but if you watch my pacing, 2, 3, up. I'm trying to control the reps as best possible. And we'll probably get 5. Okay. All right, here we go. Probably get 10 ballpark. 6. And 8. We're gonna make this a little bit heavier. We're gonna make this a little bit heavier just to end the set sooner. From 260, we'll probably get 2 or 3 more reps. We're just trying to end the set a little sooner here. Try to at least. Up, up, up. Okay, let's end this set sooner. And 1, 2, 3. And 1 more. 3, 4. Okay. All right. Whew. That's about 1 or 2 in the tank. Had some of those junk reps there at the very beginning because we undershot the weight a little bit, so made it a little heavier just to bring me closer to failure a little sooner. But regardless, comes out in the wash, not a huge deal. But this is how I relate to train calves. See that pacing, about 2 or 3 second pause at the bottom. Calves are something that really benefit from me training that bottom position, so there's no reason not to. It's not like the triceps where you're like stretching them stupidly for no reason. Calves actually have a point, so that's why I like to do it like that.